that Professor Jennifer Bernhard on this campus is one of those people that is so impressive and astounding in what she's been able to do in her work that I hope really will inspire all of you today as well to think about leadership and what's possible and what women can break the glass on many different aspects of the ones that she's probably done in her lifetime. With a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from Cornell, a PhD from Duke in electrical engineering, an IEEE leader, an NSF Career Award winner, and now the head of engineering research at this campus as Associate Dean of the College of Engineering's research. She's an endowed faculty member with expertise in antennas and wireless technologies. And I believe I first met her seeing an anechoic chamber on campus at the ECE building when it was newly released, when I went in my previous development role. So I know she's done many things from a research standpoint that we can all be grateful that came to this campus because of her research career, but now she empowers many others to do great things on this campus and helps many of our research partner companies as well. So thank you for joining us today, Professor Bernhard.
Very excited to be here. Thank you, Laura. Thanks for inviting me to come and speak with you today. Very inspired group of women yourselves here, so I'm excited to be here, and hopefully we'll have some fun here while we're having this discussion. I'm a faculty member, right? So we have to have slides, although I thought about not having slides, and then I thought, no, they're going to fall asleep. So I'm going to have slides. So we're going to do something a little bit different. It's not just going to be about me, it's actually going to be about you. So, there's one more interactive piece to this, so we'll see how far we can get. So I'll give you a brief introduction past what Laura has said, and give you a little bit. We're not going to go into the gory details. I'll tell you stories as we go along. And then talk about what exploration of leadership means for me, and perhaps what it means for you. I'm going to give you some examples. Some are good, some are bad, some are very ugly. And talk a little bit about personal journey and where leadership sometimes can take you, especially in tech. I'm going to talk a little bit about self-reflection and sharing because it's something that's been pivotal in my career in technology. As again, in engineering capacity, sometimes it's very lonely as a woman. Figuring out essentially sort of why it's that way, how it's that way, and how to fix it is really important. And how to make sure that you stay being you while you're doing that. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and then again, sort of figuring out how different ways that you can lead in tech. You're already leading in tech, and anywhere else for that matter. Having the impact you want and still having a real life, which I think is also really important for all of us. So here we go. So what does exploration mean to me? This is where sort of my personal life stories will come in. Laura gave me sort of all the stats. I did start out my faculty career somewhere else at the University of New Hampshire. I was there for 3 years, and then I moved here to Illinois. When you look at my resume, it looks like a very linear path. It looks like very straightforward, and it was anything but. There were lots of tears. There were lots of difficult decisions. There were lots of failures. Lots of uncertain moments, I guess, as we all face in real life. If anyone says that everything was, very simple and straightforward, they're not going to be, right? So here we go. So I never considered myself as a leader, and for a very long time I wasn't one. But then what happened was a long time ago, one of the senior members of my professional society asked me to do a thankless job, which was to rewrite the Constitution and bylaws for my professional society. Snooze, right? I was a committee of one, okay? And my job was to basically go through and fix this document because no one was following it. So basically to make it so that what we were doing was actually the document. It wasn't like to fix the society; it was to fix the document. Okay? So I did that. And it turns out that was one of the two formative things in my life that prepared me for the rest. The first one, I'm going to backtrack for a minute. The first one was being the only girl on the boys' golf team in high school. Okay? This was completely formative. I realize now, looking back, I've had a chance to basically do some self-reflection. This was key to the entire rest of my life. Why is that? Because if you can be on a bus, a turtle van, with 8 adolescent boys for hours upon hours, beat them at golf, right? And still good with them and have them talk to you, and it prepared me for the rest of my academic career. Okay? Because I understood it meant a lot more, and I was used to being the only woman in the bus, in the room, in the lecture, wherever it was in the lab. I was used to that. It didn't freak me out by the time I got to college, or by the time I got to grad school. So it turns out that they actually taught me a lot about the way boys and men communicate, think, act, right? And it was something that was actually very important. So the Constitution and bylaws, so what that did was, again, it was a thankless job, but it gave for me exposure to the rest of society. So I had to make presentations in front of groups, and I had to basically explain things and go, take feedback, and go back and forth, and interact with some giants in my field. And it turns out that actually helped build my professional, even though I was doing research and that was going fine, that was fine, but this actually helped build my professional leadership presence. And so after I was done with that, a few years later, they actually elected me president of society. And actually, in between doing this and being president of society was only 5 years. 5 years. So it was a pretty fast ascent, but I was pleased with it. So great. All right. So the next thing was observing. So I called this observing, learning, listening, anticipating, and building your base. All right. So we talked about someone mentioned something about biases and different kinds of surmounting challenges and these kinds of things. And so typically when you get elected to some position and you're in charge of something, your goal is to basically leave your mark. Sometimes I leave a scar, but you'd like to leave a mark. So one of the things that I thought would be a great thing to explore while I was president of my society was the idea of something called double-blind review. Okay? Now, in most professional, in a lot of scientific, academic fields, double-blind review is the norm. Social science certainly is the norm. In a lot of other sciences, it's the norm. In engineering, it's not. Okay? So the idea here is that you write a paper and you send it into the journal to be published, and your name, when it goes out for review, still appears on the paper. Okay? A lot of, oh yes, there's a yes it is, isn't it? So there's the point. So most of us of a certain age will started publishing with only our initials. Okay? And it still happens today. Okay? Depends on the journal. But, and of course, now with the internet, it's a lot easier to find people. You can Google them, it's not a big deal. But lots of folks, again, just to sort of get over to try to eliminate or decrease the bias, publish with their initials instead of their first names. Okay. So this, for me, this became very personal because it turns out that I was about to review something for a conference that had double-blind review. And I was very disoriented. If you've been doing single-blind reviews your whole life, you get very disoriented if you don't know who's written the paper. Because then you realize you get the paper, you don't know where it came from, you don't know what school they're from, you don't know what their background is, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my goodness, I haven't even done this paper on its merits. Shocking, right? It shook me. It shook me. Right? And up until that point, I was in the system just with my first initial. But at that point, I was like, you know what? We should think about this. This would really help bring more women, more folks from minority backgrounds, whatever, with strange sounding names or not anglicized names into the fold. Let's explore this perfectly. Again, so the sentiment that I expressed to you today is the sentiment with which I brought this to my administrative committee to discuss. It was just a discussion. That meeting has gone down in history as the most explosive, the most contentious, the most gut-wrenching administrative committee meeting of the society ever. Kind of, right? But really, what it was that, right? Because I was enthusiastic. I wanted to talk about this. I thought this was something we could have an intellectual discussion about, the merits. You know, there's lots of publications about the benefits of this, right? It's not like we're going into a vacuum here. Lots of people have done studies on this. But several people vowed that they would never submit to a journal if it had double-blind review ever again, that they would pull out of the organizing committee for the conference that year if we did this. Oh my God, it was awful, awful. So what I learned there about leadership, right, was it's not just about coming up with good ideas. I still think it's a good idea. I'll tell you the rest of the story. It's not just about coming up with good ideas or having a vision, right? We interview lots of leaders, and the first question they ask always is, "What's your vision?" Right? Well, that's part of what I always appreciate about Chancellor Wise is like, well, I have a vision that we're going to go do something together, and we're going to figure out what that is, right? And so what I realized there, what I learned luckily in a fairly early stage, was that you can't just go in with a vision and expect everyone, about anticipating what folks might have a problem with in this idea or in this concept or in this approach, and see what you can do, you know, to move things along. So the anticipating, you know, building your base, listening to folks, and actually bringing people along. Sometimes it's people think it's easier, you know, they're reporting to you versus with the volunteer organization, but it's actually all the same. It's all the same, right? If people are just reporting to you because they have to and they don't want to work with you, it's the same thing. You know, I have to treat everybody like volunteers. So the double-blind review, I'm actually working on that this week for the conference. It turns out that what we did was we compromised at that meeting. A colleague and friend of mine said, well, no one wants to do this with the journals, but let's try it out with the student paper contest, which was a fairly innocuous thing that no one really cared about. But it was genius, right? And again, that's, you know, you have your team, you have your advocates, right? And so we ran a pilot, we ran an experiment. Once we ran an experiment, we had 2 blind, 2 non-blind reviews. We did it for the whole next conference, not for the conference, for the student paper. What you saw was that, and actually, since I have a husband who knows how to do statistics, we ran the statistics on it, and it turns out that individuals from schools in the U.S. were getting an unfair bump in their scores with very high statistical significance. It wasn't that people used to say, oh, the people from Asia, their grammar is bad. No, it turns out that the American schools were just getting an unfair bump. So once I showed that data once I showed the data to the administrative committee, they voted to basically always have double-blind reviews for the student paper competition. So we are entering our 7th year of that. We have lots more women in the finals. We have lots more folks from non-North America in the finals, as honorable mentions. And so it's doing its job. Now, has it spread to the journals? No, but we're working. All right. So, but we have actually had other conferences adopted for their entire conference based on our results. And so it's sort of spreading, and it's going to take longer than it should, but it will happen. Self-reflection. Okay, so the next step, and part of this was we have something in the engineering college called the Engineering Faculty Leadership Forum. And it was started by Professor Ray Price, who was in the ISD department, and championed by Ade, and he was dean. And then when Ray retired, I actually areas. And so I'm now facilitator, the leader of the Leadership Forum in the college. And what we do is we basically take a group of probably about a dozen, 10 to 12 newly promoted faculty members and have them explore leadership. Julie went through it. And so part of that process is the very first thing we do is we write a decide belief statement. So this was a popular movement back a few years ago, even by NPR. There's still a website, right? And the beautiful thing about the decide belief statement, for me anyway, is it gave me a real opportunity to actually sit, be self-reflective, and say, okay, why did I try to kill myself doing this double-blind review thing? Why did I spend all that time and all that energy and all that emotion working on that? What was driving me? And so when I wrote my decide belief statement for the Leadership Forum, I realized that that's one of the reasons. So I believe that, especially in engineering, we're leaving a lot of, in technology, we're leaving a lot of talent, a lot of knowledge, a lot of just out-of-the-box thinking on the table when we don't let everyone come to the table, right? And so figuring out how we not only even the playing field, but basically just bring everybody in, right? Is the way to go. So that's what I spend. It turns out that's what I spend a lot of my time doing, even as Associate Dean for Research. Is I make sure that we do things transparently, that we have open competitions for things, that we bring folks to the table, we make sure folks are engaged, and they're not just numbers or not just names on a website. So that I think is knowing what drives you in leadership, knowing why how you prioritize your time, how you prioritize your energy, right? Actually, if you sit and think about it for a little while, it can be very powerful. So, on that note, I want you to take 3 minutes. Because we have 3 minutes. 3 minutes and think about the answers to the following questions. So, all right. So thinking about that, the point here of that little exercise is that, especially as women, we don't usually take any time. We don't make any quiet space for ourselves ever, right? To actually think about what makes us tick, what we want to do, how we're going to do it, and to go forward with purpose and with focus and actually intentionally on purpose, right? And having just a little bit of quiet space to reflect. Every once in a while, some people call it meditation. You can meditate without doing that, right? But meditating, thinking about where you're going, what you're doing, talk to people about it, right? Can be part of that process and can be incredibly powerful as you think about what you want to do. So one of the things I want to take away, we're not going to talk about this now, but what I want you to take away with you here is you thought about, you shared perhaps one of your best experiences as a leader. What motivated you to do that, right? Who are you when you're leading? Typically, we're lots of different people to lots of different people in our lives, right? We're spouses, we're partners, we're parents, we're children, we're co-workers, we're bosses, we're all sorts of different kinds of people to different kinds of people, right? Who are you when you're leading? Are you? Right? Does it feel like you when you lead? Does it feel like someone else when you lead? And that's an important thing to think about too. Recognizing what motivates you. Sometimes, especially if you fail. But sometimes it's a slow slog through some of these things. There's no other, I'm in the middle of one at the moment. It's just slow and sloggy and there's nothing you can do about it. It involves people. We're all in tech, but it involves people, right? And sometimes those things are sticky. And sometimes those things take time to work their way through. Right? And so knowing what motivates you gives you enough energy, gives you enough motivation to stick with it. Because usually that's what means the most to you. Okay? It also lets you set your priorities. And So, I got 2 more slides and then we'll let you go. So, I'm a big fan of work-life balance. And when my husband and I became husband and wife, one of the things we had decided to do was to go to grad school. And one of the reasons why we decided to be professors, ironically enough, was for work-life balance. But we do, as faculty members, certainly we did get to, and we still do get to, even as administrators, we still get to be in more charge of one's schedule than one is in other kinds of professions. And so that was part of our thinking. And so again, knowing what motivates you and knowing what's important to you helps you make those big life decisions, and sometimes takes a little bit of the edge off those big life decisions, because then you can be more confident in them. Now, the one thing here I wanted to say, especially to this group, is that the prioritization of work-life balance is incredibly important, and often technology just gets short shrift. I had a colleague in graduate school who would leave for the day, but he'd close his door and leave his light on so that his advisor would think that he was in there working. Right? Those of you who went to, who went to school for some kind of STEM discipline might have a memory of coming out of an exam and having the 2 men on either side of you say how they really kicked that exam. Oh, that was so easy. Oh my heavens, I'm sure I got an A. You studied really hard, you were prepared. You said, oh no, I think I did okay. And when the grades come back 2 weeks later, you got an A and they got C's. Okay. The problem is that when they came out of the room with you and you said, well, I think I did okay, the expert comment, right? You registered that. You're like, well, okay, I'm not as confident as they are. They must have really done great. And it turns out that they didn't. Right? So it turns out, and again, that's happened to a lot of us, but it registers and it starts to add up. Okay? And it's important for us to recognize this. Now it turns out that in my entire career, I didn't recognize this until I was in law. One more story. My kids are down here on the bottom. Look at my grad students over there. We have 2 kids. Grad students over there. Right? That's my leadership stuff. That's my husband. But the kids are in there. Okay. So when my daughter was about 3, one of her best friends was a little boy from preschool. And we would all, the 3 of us would go to the park and we came over for play dates, and my daughter is tall, not like me. And very, very physically active, and so she would go up and down the slide, and her friend was a little smaller and not as physically apt, let's say. And so she'd be going down the slide one time after another, and he'd be slow. And she was saying, well, I'm beating you down the slide. Why are you going so slow? And he says, well, you're beating me at that. And he says, I'm better at math than you are. Now he's 3. You can imagine the backtracking I had to do, right, with a 3-year-old to convince her that she was still really good at math. Okay. Now, again, little boy didn't meet, this is just sort of kids on the playground, right? But what that experience taught me was that it turns out that happens to all of us every day. Okay? And the thing is, people aren't doing it on purpose most of the time, right? 95, 98% of the time, it's not happening. People aren't doing that posturing to make you feel bad on purpose, okay? But a lot of times, when you think about, sometimes I do it on purpose. Sometimes I do it on purpose now. But the key here is to register it when it's happening. Okay? If you walk away from a conversation, you say, wait a second, I feel bad. Why do I feel bad all of a sudden? Right? And then you say to yourself, oh wait, because we're having that conversation, and suddenly everything I was doing was less than, and everything that he was doing was more than. Right? And so again, it's not necessarily on purpose, but one realizes that even evolutionarily, right? Male peacocks have lots of feathers to impress people, right? Impress other peacocks, right? So they have this big plumage and they make a big deal and okay, great, right? And so that's how they size each other up. And next time you're at the conference, next time you're in the meeting, a general meeting here, right? See how people interact. It's a great social experiment. Typically, they'll ask where you went to school, what's your job title, what do you study, those kinds of things. It's about your pedigree. It's about the stuff on your resume, which is fine, right? But it is a sizing up. Okay? Recognize that it's happening, and then you can dismiss it. Once you know what's happening, it's easy to get rid of it. But if you don't know it's there, it can get very heavy very quickly. And I learned it from a 3-year-old playground. It took me that long, right? I already had my PhD. I was already a faculty member. It took me that long to figure it out. But it turned out that once you know that, it's very empowering to be able to go on with the rest of your day and dismiss a lot of negative things that bring you down. You don't need to. Because you're all fabulous. So, self-reflection helps you define what means the most to you. It changes over time, of course, right? But when you take a little bit of time to reflect and really, why do I do what I do and why am I spending my time on this, right? It can help you prioritize, help you can move stuff along, right? Knowing what matters can also provide some balance, right? So that you can make some choices about whether you go on that trip, or whether or not you do those dishes, or whether or not you do different things, right? Because sometimes when you have a 17-year-old, she's only going to be in the house for another year, so sometimes you do stuff that means you're behind in work, and that's okay, right? Because you're way out for another year. There's lots of decisions like that I make every day on those kinds of models, because this is life, right? Remember to pace yourself, okay? There's also, talk about sizing up, there's also an inclination to be in a hurry, to be competitive. I advise a group of undergraduates every semester, and sometimes they act like it's a race to finish. I have to finish. I have to take 19 credits a semester. No, you don't. Okay? I understand it's expensive, and if you need to move things along because it's expensive, that's fine. But it's not a race. No one cares who finishes first. There are people who have already. There are people who won't finish before you. It's not a race, right? It's whoever finishes best. It's how you come out at the end that matters, right? You're the product. You're the goal. Keep that in mind. Same thing with a company. Sometimes it's a rush to market. Sometimes with research it's a rush to publication. That's fine. But you also have to be you. You have to do it the right way. You want to have the right product. You want to have the right market. You want to have the right impact. Right? Again, you rush, you work hard, but you don't necessarily, how do I say that? You plan and you make sure that you have space to do what you need to do when you need to do it. Okay? Knowing what drives you to lead helps give you focus, helps ignore what you need to ignore, right? And lets you be comfortable in your own skin. And that's actually when folks went around the room talking about the leaders that inspired you, right? One of the things that was common among all of them, people you knew, people you didn't know, they were all very comfortable in their skin, right? They owned however they led. They owned whatever they did, right? And that's that centeredness and that focus that will allow you to do the same thing. So with that, I will thank you for your attention.